you were talking about the bride, the foolish virgins. They're both virgins, right? They're both,
right.
One's foolish and one's pretty clever. One has wisdom. But how many times do we see Israel and Jacob used in the same message? You're right about that. Jacob and Israel. The descendants of Jacob glorify him and stand in awe of him, all of you descendants of Israel. I'm quoting right from Psalm 22.
Yep.
So we see this, the daughters of Zion in Jerusalem, the daughters of Israel in Zion. I mean, the three wives of Abraham.
Yep.
The two wives of Jacob. Look, we could go. Look, it's already 8:30. We could go all night, couldn't we, brother? Because this is what I do. This is what I love. You can ask Benj. You can ask anybody that's listening. All the people in the chat room know this.
Oh,
I can do this 24/7.
We're identical. We're the same way. I'm always like, because I feel overwhelmed a lot of times, because, for example, and I think it's Isaiah 40 verse 22 or something like that. It says, he who waits upon the Lord shall renew his strength. He shall mount up as with wings of eagles and walk and not be weary, all that kind of thing. Well, the key verse there the Lord showed me was that the word renew is the key to that verse, because we all have our, juniper tree moments, like Elijah had, where we get bummed out and was like, Lord, please just kill me now. I can't take any more of this, and it's hard, we get depressed. I get depressed, because because of the judgment upon the shepherds in Ezekiel 34, the Lord knows I do not ever want to get into now he might force me, and I pray that he doesn't, but I don't want to ever be in a position where I have to take tithes from the listenership. I would rather just go ahead and, like Paul says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, he who does not work does not eat. And I know that most churches, even brick and mortar churches today, in most churches, the senior pastor works a regular day job. However, there are a lot of them that the senior pastor does not work, and all the other pastors do work full time.
Well, there's one thing in having a ministry and preaching the gospel for money, and there's another thing in someone loving you enough to support the work that you do. Paul actually said this in the beginning of Romans. He said, if I work just like all of you, the work that I do is just as hard as the work you do, and I'm doing things that you should be doing. Okay?
Absolutely.
Shouldn't I reap the same carnal things?
I get bummed.
Right.
I get bummed, not because there's anything wrong with I actually think that it's ultimately better if you are doing a good job feeding the sheep, that the perfect place that God would have you to be is receiving your income and the money for the ministry work from the people in the gathering, in the ecclesia. I think that's the ultimate place to be. I am not there. That is not where I am comfortable at this time. If the Lord forces my hand at a later date, that's fine. I'll just have to go with it.
Do you know why you're forced to make this statement, though? Let me just, we're going back to Pentecost, when the church was established. The day that the church was, remember, 3,000 men were brought back to life that day. Significant because 3,000 men died in the desert. In the wilderness. This is life. The 120 in the upper room. There were 120 in the Sanhedrin. This is the changing of the guard. This is the new covenant. I mean, so as we go on down and we see what happens on this day, the Lord added to the church daily those who should be saved. And then they continued daily in one accord in temple, and breaking bread from house to house did they eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. But they were all in one accord. Everyone gave as each man had need. They believed together and had all things in common. They sold their goods and possessions and parted them to all men as every man had need. That's what the problem is, see, because nobody teaches this. Everybody says, well, that's mine. Everybody thinks, okay, I'll give my tenth. I'll give my tithe. No, we don't give our tithe. We give it all. Jesus Christ gave it all for me.
Oh my gosh, folks! There's like I said, I specialize in prophecies, dreams, and visions. That's how I had to learn what the Bible really says is by listening to God's people, so I didn't have a schism in my body, 1 Corinthians 12. And that's when everything just came alive. And there's a, I think his name is Pastor Sook, Sook. I think I have the right guy. I hope so. But anyway, excuse me, he was taken to heaven. He was a pastor of a brick and mortar church, and he died and got taken to heaven. And as a pastor, he thought he didn't have to tithe. And so he didn't tithe. And when he was taken to heaven, the Father showed him that he was going to ultimately be in a very bad situation when he made it to heaven. I don't know the details, but ultimately, because you reap what you sow, and those are eternal rewards. So the size of your house, where you live in heaven, whether you live in the way out in the valleys, way out in the outer darkness. The outer darkness is misunderstood. People think it's hell. It's not. All it means is it's the shadowy area. So heaven is a really, really big place. And there's what's known as the city of God. The city of God is like raised up like on a mesa, and the Crystal River flows over the side of it. And the city of God is like where all the apostles live. It's like where the
river
most
of life
holy of the
is,
holy
right?
live.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also where there's no light or shadow of turning ultimately, because of the glory of God lighting up the entire city of God. But the outer environments or the outer darkness, it's not necessarily a bad place. It's just the all of the let's just call them the Thomas Kincaid light mansions that are located all around as far as the eye can see, way out. And then there are some places that are a little bit less desirable, way out there where the disobedient Christians are. And so it's a hierarchy, it's a kingdom, and it's not, so we are rewarded. Jesus said in Revelation 22:12, he said, behold, my rewards are with me to give to each according to his work. And a big part, when it says that you reap what you sow in 1 Corinthians, I think it's 9 or something like that, I can't remember, but anyway, where it says that you reap what you sow, that's eternal. That not only do you get blessed for sowing into the kingdom. I didn't know this. I used to preach against the tithe, because I was so upset with the church when I learned that I was being misled by the church and that I almost ended up in hell because I bought the awful teachings that are the inept teachings that are coming from the pulpit, and I bought them for over 30 years, and I realized that I almost went to hell. I was pretty mad, and I thought that tithes. I was like, don't tithe to these people. What I didn't realize was that in reality, Christian giving is much more than 10%. And you might go like, oh no, I'm in debt up to my garbanzo beans. What am I going to do? Well, it's unfortunate. Try to do everything that you can. Do the widow's mite thing as much as you can. As Pastor Andrew Womack puts it, God can't unscramble eggs, but he can redirect your GPS. And that's what happened to me. I fell on my knees. When I realized that my lack of giving to the kingdom was going to impact my eternity, I was horrified, and I cried and cried and cried. And I was like, Lord, please help me. And it's fascinating. The Lord actually, I was able to pay off a car, and the Lord put me in a job after going through some suffering and such. But ultimately, after I lost my job and I was unemployed for several months, I cashed out an IRA, and I dumped thousands of dollars into the kingdom because I said, you know what, I'm either all in or I'm all out, and I'm not doing it halfway anymore. And I stood every single day that I was unemployed. I stood in my office with praise music on my feet, with my hands lifted to the sky, praising Jesus with tears coming out of my eyes, and I prayed that the Lord would show me who I should give my money to. I cashed out an IRA, I liquidated it and sowed it into the kingdom, and now, I don't say this to brag, believe me, I don't. But the Lord ended up giving me the best job I've ever had in my entire life, and now I'm able to sow even more into the kingdom, so it comes back as a double blessing.
And for those of us who aren't financially, awesome. For those of us who are like the widow and aren't financially able to do that, believe me, the Lord gives us plenty that we can give.
Yes, and it's not just money, folks. It's giving of your time. Right. Call, hey, look, if you don't want to, if you want to do more than just be a prayer warrior, how about this? Make a few phone calls. Find some old folks home. Call the activities director of some of the old folks' homes in your town and ask them if they wouldn't mind if you come in and read the Bible to some of the people in the old folks' home. That activities director is going to be, yes, how fast can you get over here?
We used to go every Sunday after church, and we'd take the youth to the old folks' home, and it was wonderful. It gave those folks so much joy. So much joy.
Oh my gosh, folks, there's so many opportunities. We miss. Here, there's new ministries that are burgeoning up. They showed up on YouTube. This is another thing you can do. If you are blessed with a pretty good paying job and you can afford to do it, then grab yourself a couple of $100 when you get your paycheck, cash it out, put it in your wallet in 20s, and then pray. Ask the Father to lead you in the Spirit to people who need help, and then go to several different grocery stores in town and have the Father lead you to the single mothers and the little old ladies who can't afford the ridiculous food prices, and go up and buy their groceries for them and tell them this is from Jesus.
Let me tell you what Bams has done before. Of course, we've never had a lot of money for a long time. We've never had a lot of money, but she took a bunch of ones and wrote, I think she wrote John 3:16 or something, Jesus loves you or something, on all these dollars. And she was taking them and putting them in places that people didn't have money would go to shop, like bulk items. You know what I'm saying? Things that people buy if they don't have a lot of money. They'll buy oatmeal. They'll buy cereal for their kids, maybe flour. And she'd stick it up on the shelf. And I told her that's the best calling card that there is. You're blessing them, and you're blessing them. You're blessing their body.
Yes.
Jesus took care of the physical first. And then he fed the spirit man. So,
yes, check it out. So I'm pulling out of my house. This kind of stuff happens all the time. We need to help people understand it. If you're looking, it's not that God isn't talking to you. The problem is you haven't learned to listen. So I'm driving out of my housing development, and I'm pulling out. And I'm always talking to the Lord. I'm always, Jesus, praise you, Jesus, praise you, Jesus. And I'm pulling out, and there's a car stalled in the middle of the median where I'm pulling out. And I look over for somebody that maybe there's an opportunity I can help them, right? Well, there's nobody there. It's just a car sitting there stalled. So I'm like, and it had like one of those donut tires on it. And I remembered, back when I was driving my Pinto wagon with the furry black carpeting in it back in the 70s. I knew what it was like to be in that shape, right? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go help him. So I stopped my car in the median, shut the door, walked back, I don't know, maybe 20 yards. And I go up to the car, I look in my wallet. Sure enough, I had, I don't know, $60, $100. And I threw it, and I took it. And believe it or not, thank you, Jesus, the driver's side window was cracked just enough that I could slip, whatever this amount of 20s was, and I threw it into the car, and it landed in the seat. And then I went back to the car. I looked in my wallet for a Tribulation Now business card, which, I give to people for free. And if you want some, folks, we're all in this together. Whatever works for you, right? But if you want to, you can email me at jbaptist777@gmail.com, and I'll hook you up with a free stack of these business cards. Because remember that if you go to people with tracts, like the Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff, we're programmed to reject tracts.
Yeah.
So people that hand out tracts are not getting any traction. Okay, but if you want to touch people and get stuff into their hands, you want to use a business card, because we're programmed to accept business cards because we're taught that it means opportunity, right? But anyway, if you email me, I'll send you a free stack of these cards that I buy, and I just use it to sow back into the kingdom. And on the back of the card, it says Planet X, Nibiru, Megaquakes, Nuclear War, Martial Law, FEMA camps, New World Order, guillotines, UFOs, aliens, demons, fallen angels, Anunnaki. It's on the back of the card because those terms are known very well by the young people today, because they're out on the internet and they're learning about these things, and it's pervasive. So just email me, jbaptist777@gmail.com, and I'll send you a stack for free. I need your address, of course.
That's
but
awesome.
I go over to this car and I throw in that, I don't know, $100 or whatever, and then I go to my wallet because I want to let the person in the car that gets the money know that it was from Jesus, right? And I guess what? I didn't have a card on me. And I got into the car, and I'm all bummed out. I'm like, Lord, they're not going to know that it was from Jesus. And he told me, yes, they will, because I will tell them. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I was so
brother,
happy. I was like, that's because I never thought about it like that.
Brother,
think
let
about
me
it.
say
If
this.
you got in that car and you found $100 and you had a donut on your and you needed help and you found $100 on your, who would you think it was from? A Satan worshiper?
Amen.
No, you would